There we go. I'm live, just saying hello to you. I thought I'd just pop here on a snap decision today, really, is that I'm feeling energized, I'm feeling upbeat, and I'm not quite sure. Well, I think I know why, but I'm here to burble, but I'm also here. Hang on, let me just. There we go. Get the autofocus done. Burr. I really do need to make a list of things I need to check before I do anything to do with YouTube. But I know I may not have many people here live because it is a spur of the moment thing, but either way, this will be a video when it comes to me finishing it. So if you want to say hello, the chat is on. I'll keep an eye on it from time to time. There's somebody joined me, which is fab. So hello, and with no further ado, I'll get on with this. This drawing I started in my last video, and which was also a live stream about 2-3 weeks ago now. And I want to get it finished. And I got so far in the live stream, but there were requests for me to complete it at another time, as well as requests for me to do more live streams, which I'm going to have to try to be a bit more organized about. But I do have problems and issues at the moment with my energy levels. It can be very hard for me to predict when I'm in the right mood to do things. So let me make a start on this. I'm using some Arts or Artex markers. The numbers are 147, 145 and 409. So I've got one pink and two purpley colours that go with the background, which I did with Distress Inks. And this is mixed media paper. It's Fabriano mixed media paper. And I did spray water on, so I've got some interesting textures there. The reason for me using markers is that markers are transparent, so they'll show any underlying texture in the colours that are there. So where I've got these very light areas, like here where there's been a water drop, that will still show through. That's my hope anyway. And I am going to have to layer colours up so that I can get darker areas, lighter areas, shading and not shading and so on. I chose to use markers because coloured pencils irritate me. They really do. They always have done, but they can be useful. Part of me is tempted to get them out to add some extra shading in places, but I'm going to behave and be good about that. Anything that uses water will make the Distress Ink run. It will get incorporated, and I don't want that because I really like this background. So let me start with pink and see where I haven't been with pink. A lot of places, actually. So, well, this is pink. The other reason is that I'm using markers is that the colour that's already there will remain there. And you get a blend of colours. So although this is quite pink, it's actually coming forward here as a kind of purplish colour. And I'm going to add to that purplish colour with the darker purple. Now these are pastel colours, a set of pastel colours. So the difference isn't going to be huge, but it's going to be enough that I can make use of it. And I can certainly come back and enhance the lighter areas with white dots, or I don't like white chalk or white pastel, but we'll see. And it'll all work its way out and, into things, as it does. This paper's quite nice to use markers on because although they sink, the paper does soak up the markers to a degree. But that means the paper stays damp for longer, so you can get better blending going on here. And that's precisely what I'm doing. In fact, just give me a moment and I shall just take all of these lids off so my pens are undone, because then I can just pick up the ones I would like. So I'm going to use the pink around here. So yeah, so spring has sprung. Kind of. It was the spring equinox, the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere on Wednesday, I think it was, either Tuesday or Wednesday. It's all about the same for a while here. This is in the northern hemisphere. I live in Wales, part of the United Kingdom. And specifically, I live in the South Wales Valleys. So the base of one of them, actually, it's where sort of like a number, or three, is it three come together, sort of? Three rivers certainly do. Is it three rivers? Something like that. Forgetting my history here now. My understanding, I've lived here most of my life, so I should know better. But it's been a lovely sunny day today, and I didn't get up until about midday today, or just after midday. I've been struggling with my energy levels again, but I know, you know, I had a burnout again a couple of weeks ago, and it does take me that extra bit of time, it seems, to recover. I think it might take me a day or two, and sadly it takes me a bit longer, more like a week or 3 or 4 or 5. And but it's just something I need to keep kind of on top of, I suppose, and just to see how I go. But I haven't been out for 2.5 weeks really around people, but I did go out last night, and it's to somewhere where I gave a talk, and that means that there is some socialising, but mainly I'm the one doing all the talking. And it was actually quite funny. There were some really funny episodes in there. I had, you know, all in stitches, so which was lovely actually. I really did enjoy that. And as tired as I was when I came home, because I went shopping afterwards, I needed to do some food shopping, as one does. By the time I'd eaten, it was midnight, and I went to bed not long after that, which is a bit daft. And whatever I ate hasn't agreed with me. So I've had a bit of an IBS flare-up. I've had a couple in the last week or so. So I'm going to have to think about what I've done with my diet and see how that's affecting me, which is more likely than anything else at the moment. And that leaves me very drained and tired. But I think that being with people and chatting to people was actually good for me. And I think it's something I need now to look at going forward, but limiting what I do, because I know that as much as I enjoy the company of people, too much can be too much. And last night it was really said it was mostly me talking, which was great, and it was only just over an hour and a half or an hour and 3/4 that I was with people, so it wasn't too much for me. Oh, got a headache this morning. The introvert hangover. I come across as being very extroverted, but that's more because that's what I'm expected to be, or what I feel I should be. And I'm not really all that extroverted, if I'm truthful and honest with you, which I'm trying to be. And yeah, I'm putting shadow just at the bottom of each of these blocks. Part of me thinks I really do need to use slightly darker colours, and part of me goes, no, not today. But I know that once they've dried, if I want to go back and add more colour, I can. Because they do layer one on top of another, but I want to keep a nice bright spot towards the top right as like a highlight. And that's actually working quite nicely. I could do with just a bit more colour here, definitely here, some there, some underneath that eye, I think, perhaps little bits just around the edge here, just to give that little shading where things overlap. That's so important. It really is, as it is here. That's why I think I need some darker ones. I'll see how I go, because I may go and I think is my other box up here. Yeah, I think it is. I could be wrong. I know I've got other markers upstairs. as that's where my sort of studio area is, though I tend to, these days, to actually spend a lot of time on my day bed downstairs, which is my sofa for most of the time. And I can sit there and get my legs up underneath me and draw and, you know, get myself very comfortable. And certainly as the summer goes on, I'll be spending more time there because it's a much cooler room, because it's downstairs, even though it's south, and it is south facing, just like my studio and bedroom, because I've got a huge bedroom. Then that makes it a nice place to be. But I'll see what happens as far as using cameras and things goes. Perhaps I can, well, I don't know. I'll work it out eventually. So what was I whittering about? Oh yeah. So last night, it was lovely to see people who I know and I'm comfortable with and could chat and have a bit of a laugh and a joke with. But I know if I was going to do the same thing tonight or tomorrow night or the night after, if it's, you know, a couple of nights on the trot, I'd be absolutely exhausted. So, but I also slept an awful lot, and I slept deeply as well, which is a good thing. And next week, I'm having a lovely trip away. I'm going to visit my older sister, who lives in Surrey, in England. And I'm really looking forward to that because we get on really well. We do. And I know we've got a trip planned to go to the RHS Gardens at Wisley, which I haven't been there for a good number of decades. And they are fantastic from what I remember of them. So I shall look forward to that. I shall have my camera to take lots of photos of plants and so on there, as well as I will anywhere else, anything that I can find that I could make use of for reference and ideas. Because not that I've still got tons, actually thinking about it, I've still got tons of pictures on my camera from my last trip to Dyffryn Gardens back in September, October. Need to get those off. Just putting some dark purple here just to add some shadow there. And I'm going to go back with my pinky colour then. Just to add a hint of pink places. That's nice. And perhaps I'll add a bit more pink there, which will lay over the other pink and making that darker, but also bring that lighter bit out there. So that's going to be nice. So I really wanted to make sure that I came and gave a video of some kind or other for you to enjoy while I'm away. And I know I've got work to do for my next colouring book, so I need to get some templates done and finished by sort of like the middle-ish of April, which is doable, but I've not really had the energy to do that. So, but I have been drawing. I just haven't brought what I've been doing upstairs to share with you, really. And I should have really. But I'll do that another time. What I can tell you is going live, doing live sessions is actually a good way for me to go forward, I think, with the channel. Because most of my videos, they aren't edited in terms of cutting out things or making flashy statements and, you know, whatever. The only difference is you don't get a sort of like a polished looking front screen and end screen to them. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I can add them afterwards. Perhaps I can, but for now, it seems to suit me as the way I'm doing it at this time. So quite happy for that. I'm mostly using pink and purple here, which is surprising me. It is quite a bit. So I think that'll be my plan, because it also means that once I've done the live stream, that's it for me. I don't have to spend time sat at the computer and waiting for things to process there and then upload and everything else. Which sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but it means that I have more time to spend, excuse me, doing what I love, which is drawing and chatting. As I go quiet. I don't know if you can see, but here you might be able to see where, if I zoom in, let's try and get that the right button, you see the darker lines there where it goes light. That lightness is showing through and the darker edges to it. So I'm still capturing that texture that's underneath. Maybe not as much as I would like, but enough that it's kind of works, if you get my drift. I'm just going back to places where I could do with adding just a bit more darkness. It's very much a dance back and forth with marker pens, as it is with many other media. It's the layering that allows me to get the intensity of colour I like. If I'd used more intense colours, more saturated colours, I'd be stuck with that level of saturation. You can adjust it a bit with water colourless blender. Oops, I'm going off the screen here. But I am going back here, just trying to get some extra darkness in these places where things overlap. The hatched ink pattern here does some of the lifting for me, as it were, does some of the hard work, but not entirely. Which is why I keep going back to places and adding some more ink just to darken that colour that little bit. Eventually we get there. So it's a kind of patience that's needed. But for some reason I do far better with marker pens than any other kind of medium at times, I think. Still have trouble with colours. You should see the one I'm working on at the moment. I really think, what were you thinking, Angela? The answer is I most probably wasn't when I chose colours. So I'm going to have to work that one out at some point. But, right, I really do want lots of pink down here, because this is the darkest area of this particular shape. I love this shape that I'm adding colour to here. It's a kind of weird leaf, but there's also something really lovely about it. I'm just going to put a bit of light purple there just to add a bit of variation. Then I'm going to add some more ink. I want this to be darkest. And then I've got all these little bits underneath that are all pinky in colour. So we'll definitely have the top bit. If you can see, there's like a water spot there. Cameras, well, on my screen I can't see it very clearly, but I can certainly see that shining through, showing through. It's not shining really. And this one, even though it's very pink here, I want to add some darker shading. So I'm just going to take darker purple around the edges. Even though it looks a bit dark now, it will fade in. It will fade as it dries. That's the beautiful thing about these pens, as it is with watercolour. And perhaps I should be using colours that are a bit darker than I'd want, knowing that they fade back, but that could be just too much of a potch, you know. But we've got some depth going on there. Just add a bit more of that dark colour there. Then if I've got everything done up to around here, so let's have a look. Just add a little bit more of that purple there, a bit here, a bit there. These are mainly pink, but I definitely want to have the purple at the beginning and end. Definitely will have some there and around here as well, because that's where my shadows are going to be. And then, oh, that's the darker purple. Picked up the wrong, typical. I have a lighter one here. Just to get that darker shade. The other thing with these colours is the cooler colours seem to be further back than the warmer colours. Possibly. Just adding some shadows here and there. Here. Use a lighter pen just to help it to blend out. Just a little bit. And you can see the difference. Say, for example, here, where we've got shadow going on compared to up here where there isn't any. It does add some depth to it all. Just some. Okay, so I've got the darker purple, so I'm just going to add hints of shading here. And with this, I'm just extending it down the top of these, so it looks like the top edge here is sort of like curving under. That's my plan anyway. And then I'll come in with the pink, but I'm going to leave a light area at the bottom, or lighter area, shall we say. So it looks like we've got a highlight there. And I'll do the same here. And then I'll bring that darker purple in again. Let's bring some pink in. And while this is paper still a bit on the damp side, I'll just bring some of that darker colour back in, just to enhance that shadowy edge, like so. So that's working quite nicely. I'll zoom out. Excuse my rattly table. So that you can see the highlights I've got there, which I'm going to have to put in other places because I forgot to do that. But it's fine. It's a way to, you know, you learn as you go and try to remember for later on. Well, that's me anyway. But I'm going to do the same here, where I'm going to leave a lighter area at the base of this. No added colour. I'm just using the lighter of the purples here. Just leaving the highlight right at the top. Not the highlight, the shadow at the top of these. It gives it that feeling of these areas overlapping then. Missed a bit there. So I'm just going back with that idea of shadow where things overlap here. To these areas as well. Once again. So as everything dries, just go back and add that extra little bit of colour. Around here I'm just going to add that, but I am going to use paler purple just to blend this out a little bit. I think we're going to have a pink layer here. Then inside I'm just going to do that all black because it is an eye. Okay, so these ones here, again, I'm going to put the darker purple here, even over the pinks, because you can see the difference. If you blend the pink with the purple, it makes a slightly different tone or different colour. I'm not very good with colour terms. Slightly different hue, I would guess, is the colour, is the term. They do blend. Maybe it seems ridiculous as I'm going back and adding pink to them all, even the purpley ones, but and with this I'm leaving the very top of each of these sections that kind of highlighted area again as well. Okie doke, so up here I've got all this pink, this wonderful pinkness. Let me just leave a highlight there. This in some ways is a bit of a game, I suppose, trying different things out, reminding myself of what is possible and what is not possible with these. I have to say I really do enjoy working with a coloured background as well. I don't do this very often or often enough. Oops, wrong top. I don't know why I'm trying to put the top on. I think it's called being a bit of an Egypt today, but we'll be fine. So I'm just looking for where my shadow is on these. I'm going to go to the right hand side. Just add that darkness down there. Perhaps a little bit more dark at the base, because I think that's where they would be dark. Like that would be. And these would as well. And perhaps a bit more on these here too. Got all of that done, and you can see the difference that even these simple or not too complicated colours have made compared to this area here. So I'm going to start adding shadow to the base of each of these, to the left on this one, actually the left and right on this side, and wherever things overlap. Should have done that at the top, really. We'll get there. So gee, that makes sense to have them at the base and assume that the layer underneath them is overlapping the layer above, as it were. So we're getting that kind of overlapping pattern going. Now I don't want to make this too dark here, so I'm going to pop my dark one away. I'm going to bring the pink in where I have pinky colours, or where I would like some pinky colours, which will give me something of a bit of a colour difference as well, which will help, I think. Perhaps I'll just make the middle one-ish kind of pinkish up to there. Put the pink to one side. Then I will get the paler violet out, or purple, whatever colour it is. I know these are pink over here, but I am just going to pop some violet in, and definitely here. Just there. And then I think I'm done with those, though I am going to get It's my box. You see the box here? I do want to get my colourless blender out, so I should have done that first, but I didn't. Or with the others, but I didn't because I didn't think I'd want this. But I do, because I want to bring out some of these areas that I have designated as highlights, to be honest. Especially with these ones I've just done. Just help bring those highlights out. Colourless blenders act as bleaches more than anything else. They don't. You can apply it to the paper first, make the paper damp with this, and then you'll find that the inks will blend easier on the paper that's got the colourless blender in. But you also don't get the full saturation of the colours. It's a thing to do. If you go over a line, you can actually blend this out until it's almost invisible if you've got the time and patience. But I tend to use it for making sure I've got highlights where I want highlights. So even though I've used colours everywhere here, I can still go back and add highlights in, which become apparent as they dry more than anything. And with this one, hopefully, I can add dots in here and create a texture. So I'm pressing this down for a shorter or longer while. So I'm getting little dots of different colours. The underlying distress ink will show through, but this will lighten up the alcohol markers and give me the interesting darker rings around this as it dries. So I can add some more texture to the colour before I even think about using the pens. And I do like textures like this. I find it really hard to be happy with very smooth, very clean kind of colours with alcohol markers, but if I can add some texture, I really enjoy that texture. So here I'm just adding some around the edge of this darker colour just to bring some lightness in. And again, I'm just dabbing it. And as I say, the distress inks will show through. So yes, spring has sprung here in the Northern Hemisphere, in the land of song and dragons, which is Wales. And the dawn chorus is glorious as the birds are beginning to think about nesting and producing young ones. It'll go very quiet for a while they're busy doing that. But it's lovely if I'm awake early enough in the morning to hear it. The hours of daylight are increasing, so that's lovely. The temperatures in the day have been a bit milder of late, which is also really nice. Saves on my heating bills, which is even better, to be honest. And signs of leaves on trees and daffodils, which is the national flower of Wales. It's the daffodil and the leek are the two sort of like botanical symbols of Wales. And of course we have a dragon on our flag, the red Welsh dragon, a Ddraig Goch in Welsh, red dragon. But it was nice to be out to see these things yesterday, just for a short while. Even though I was driving into twilight, you could still see these things. It was lovely. Now, I think I've done all I need to do with my alcohol markers just for now. Let's pop that to one side. Now it's time to get the pens out. So the pens I've got here, I've got an 05, an 03 and an 01. They are uni pins. I can't remember if I used uni pins the last time I did this, but I mix and match fine liners generally. So I want to create another eye out of this. So I'm just going to add black to this, like so. And I'll think about how I'm going to add black patterns and textures to help to bring out some dimension and interest to these. Oh gosh, I'm not having a good time filling this in. It'll work. There we go. Job's done. So I've got a couple of eyes here. What I'm going to do with this one as well, which I'm going to go back and do with others, so I'm just going to put fine lines close together around this part. There we go. And I'll do the same with this one. And perhaps I'll zoom in for this. Hopefully I'll remain within the shot. This one looks a bit more like an eye, but I'm definitely going to add these fine lines here. Actually, do you know what I think I'll do with this one is actually fill this in. In fact, I'm going to fill all of it in because I will eventually use a white pen to add highlights to things, so I can re-add that because I'll brighten these to white. And the other thing I think I'll do here is I'm going to put some what looks like little petals around here, just teeny tiny ones. I'll try and keep my hand out the way. I can't promise I will, because I do hold my pen in a very odd fashion. I'm just going back and adding some, thickening the lines to the left and the bottom of these until I get to the middle one at the bottom, and then I'll still do the bottom but the right side then, so they have a little bit of volume to them. It looks like they're three-dimensional, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just going to go back and add a little semicircle in black in the middle there, and that also helps to add some shadow, so it looks like this is above these little petals there. Now, do I want to do anything to fill the rest of this in? I'm not sure, but what I am going to do is perhaps add a thin line like so around it. I'm going to add some line weight to the end of these lines. And then with this, I think I'll fill this area in with elongated circles. It ends up looking a bit like cells in a leaf, if you've ever seen plant cells under a microscope. So I don't want them, or onion skin cells actually, but they haven't got the pointy ends. But they've just got this elongated, rounded rectangle shape, and it just is an interesting way of filling that space in. And it's also made this space quite dark as well, making sure I just fill in any little gaps and holes as I can. So that's added something a little bit different there. Start at the bottom. Oh, this one. Is that its nose? Possibly. Just add another line here. In fact, we use the 03 for this. Oh gosh, I think that's the one I was using downstairs. It's a bit clogged up now from what I was using it for, but it's fine. It'll clean itself. That's okay. And it may be that I'm going to add some texture here just to give some pattern. So again, I'm just using elongated, rounded rectangles here. as a way of filling this space in, really. And they'll be open enough that they will look different to that quite intense cross-hatching. And perhaps as I go along here, I may just lengthen them or vary the size of them a little bit more. I don't really want these areas to line up with anything. I want the seam lines, as it were, to fall away from anything else. They look distinctly different. So I'm not worried about having an even or a regular kind of pattern here. I just want that. So that looks okay. This under here, oh, this one here really does need that kind of border or aura going in. There's just something nice about how I can separate out areas just simply by this. And then I think I may just add another one around the outside. It just emphasizes that kind of shape. But again, I want something in here. And I'm sticking with, in this case, rounded rectangles that are more squarish than rectangular, if that makes sense. And it's just a way of adding more ink and emphasizing spaces, but also perhaps adding a bit of dimension or a bit of interest. These little spaces, there are options here. I could fill them with colour. I may actually use some metallic paints. That's a possibility, actually. And a very fine brush, obviously. But that would look quite good here. A little bit of sparkle and shimmer doesn't harm anybody. See, I'll choose carefully where I put that, because otherwise I'm going to end up with it all over my artwork, and I don't want that either. So that's looking quite interesting. Okay, what am I going to do with this lot here? Let me have a look. My 03, I think, is just going to be a bit too thick for this. So let me just create little arches inside these. And that may just be enough to add some interest to them. Now these I wouldn't try to add metallic paint to them because I am a bit of a klutz with brushes. And I know I haven't got any fine enough gel pens to add metallic colour to them, but who knows, I may find a way. I may think, oh, let's try that. Some of these are big enough too, so perhaps the bigger ones will just have a little bit. That'll be quite interesting. These are a lot thinner, so I'm going to do something different here, where I'm going to put a line with a ball on the end. Even this one will have one there. And this has actually given me an idea for the other ones, what I can do there. Oops. So that is quite different, but these ones here, I'm going to get the 03 and I'm just going to go in and just fill these in with ink, because I do have an idea now. Because even if they're little, if I've got a tiny fine brush, which I do have, I can just put little dots of iridescent or metallic ink here. Iridescent, I think. Sparkly paint. I do like a sparkle. So the ink lines I put in originally are really just the skeleton of the design. These little bits that I'm adding now, these areas, are all part and parcel of the, I suppose, the flesh of the pattern. That takes it from a pile of bones to something that is more than just a pile of bones. I don't know if I could describe the architecture of my drawing as a pile of bones, but I have. You know, just the bare outlines. And this is adding the interest. And the more ink I put, the darker it seems and the further back the area goes, which is fab. There we go. So that looks good. That looks cool. Okay. So here I've got all of these little dots and I'm very tempted to leave this as it is, except it doesn't feel right unless I do something like that. That feels better. Just go back with my pen and just widen that a bit. That's my 03. I'm going to come back with my 01 because what I'm going to do here, well, that's not the 01, that's the 05. That would be a silly thing to use. Put that well out of my way. It's a good thing I spotted it before I put it on the paper. But if I had put it on the paper, I'd have done something with it and sorted it out. So I'm just filling this with lines very close together, just as I did somewhere else. Did I? No, I haven't. Yes, like on the irises or the coloured parts of the eyes or around the eyes. But I'm using that just to fill this little bit in here and to tidy up lines. And actually to make some of these lines a little bit thicker. Again, thicker the black line, the more dimensional it appears. So we've got that going on. I quite like that. This one here, I am just going to put a very fine line sort of down the middle. And I'm going to stop there and I'm going to put a teardrop shape at the end. So a little leaf that's got a round bit. Just to say, yes, we've got something going on in there, something a little bit different. This one here, this area that's inside here, I may leave it as it is. I'm not entirely sure at the moment. I think I will. I'll come back to it because it is quite dark. I'm regretting putting that in now. But I suppose what I can do is just to create another area here that perhaps has another teardrop shaped leaf in it, just like that. Like this one. And then this one I'm going to put in some broken cross hatching. Like so. So it ends up looking like frayed burlap, I suppose. Like so. And I can even just thicken these lines up even a little bit more. And I may actually go in the opposite direction as well, just to darken this up again. I'm not using lines as much as I am little dashes more than anything else. And I might just go the other way now, just to, especially closer to the darker areas where I will have more lines. So that really does set that back without using solid black. These here, I'm going to do the same as I did here, I think. Shall I? No, let's do something a bit different. What can I do? I don't know. So while I'm letting that percolate through my head, just tidying up some shapes as I go. And that's perfectly fine to do as well. I know what I want to do to that area inside. I'm going to put some, well, Zentangle perks, if you like, which are just balls kind of behind one another, or little round seeds. It's quite a cute pattern to do, and it's very easy to fill in all kinds of shapes and areas with it. It's very forgiving like that. And then I'm going to pick up my 01 again. Leave the lids on, Angela, as in on the top. Then I'm just going to add some little lines to give some shading and shadow there. So at the bottom, across the bottom here, and follow the shape, and just around to the right, just to bring that in. And I will put little bits of white there. This area, this one I feel needs an edge there, and perhaps I'll do this on the other side then. So we have a distinct sort of like almost like a spine in these areas. But what I'm going to do here, which way would I like it? I think I'll follow these down and up, curving the lines a bit like book pages, if you will. And yet I'm going outside the line in some places, but and they're not all that even, but that's fine because I can go back and thicken these lines perhaps. And the idea is this feels almost like a valley in between these two areas, perhaps. Oops. There is a certain kind of pleasure and joy in repeating lines, repeating patterns, which I know is made use of in the Zentangle method as well as many other forms of art. But I really do enjoy that repetitiveness and the rhythm of it. It's quite a sensory kind of pleasure for me. It's also very soothing and calming. And I've learnt over the years that it's okay to be imperfect in what you do. I mean, this one isn't very perfect. I can see here where I can sneak another line in there and one there. So those two big gaps aren't as glaring, but I'm quite happy with that. And I think what I will do then is I'm just going to put another line on the outside of this. Just like that. And then I think I was going to leave it, but I think this area here could do with its own little line. And yes, those two lines came together there. And you know what? I'm happy with that. It is what it is. But that's created something that's quite interesting out of that particular area. I don't want to do this, but what I think I might do in this area is fill it up with lots of little tiny pebbles, perhaps. Not perfect circles or close to perfect. I suppose it's a bit like the Tangle pattern tipple. But I'm just using it as a way to fill this in with a lot of ink, but still letting the colour show. So it's not black, but the black of the ink gives the illusion that this is in shadow. And what I'm going to try to do as I go further along, as I get into the rhythm, is start to have bigger circles towards the centre of this and keep the tiny ones right the way along the edge. Because when they're bigger, they show more of the colour underneath through, so it's a bit like a highlight. Just as we've used here, but using a different kind of pattern and a way of adding that ink. There. So we've got that going on, which is lovely. Okay, I'll do that in all of these. Now I do draw quite quickly, but you know, if you're drawing along with me or doing your own version of this or even your own work, don't feel that you have to work as quickly as I do, because you don't. I'm fortunate that I have quite a precise kind of movement in my hand, although not as precise and fussy as I used to be. In fact, I'm finding pleasure in the more wobbly, deliberately wobbly lines, which can mask the ones that weren't meant to happen, but I embrace them now. And I find that adds some kind of, sort of, I suppose, character to my lines, to my drawing, something that is me. And perhaps it's a sign that I'm breaking away a little bit from my ultra perfectionism that I've lived with all my life. And I'm learning that people don't always go up and inspect your artwork with a magnifying glass or a microscope to see how good you are at things. As I'm sure that, there are plenty of imperfections in work close up, even the most precise work. Unless, of course, somebody's used a microscope or a huge magnifying glass to do it. But it's that kind of impression or the implied nature of things here. That's actually looking quite nice. I do like that. These here, I'm going to add lines to the left. So we've got a narrow area there. There's a reason for my madness. It's almost like I want to go to the right here because these are bending in a different direction. So that's precisely what I'm going to do. Keeping them quite narrow. Adjusting shapes where I need to. And then these I'm going to just fill with little lines to give that little bit of a shadow along the edge. Almost as if they are sort of like puffy, as it were, or like this is an edge that's curling over. It's more in the shadow. I don't know. I can't always see the illusion I'm trying to create. I'm so close to it. I know what I'm doing, but that doesn't mean that I actually really know what I'm doing and can't see the illusion of it until afterwards. With these ones here, I'm going to put little L shapes inside from the left and the bottom. And I'll do the same with these ones, I think, because that kind of works nicely as well for those tiny little areas. Okay, I'll come back to these little pebbles at another time. How long have I been working? Oh, gosh, nearly an hour. Can't believe that. This could be a long one. But I can see there are people who've joined me, so hello to each and every one. It's lovely to have people join me for this, because I know it's a very impromptu kind of thing, and I'll try to be more organised in future, but I can't guarantee it. Today it just happens that I've got a surfeit of energy, which surprises me as I spent time with people last night. So if you've heard that, you know the story. If you haven't heard that, then hopefully you'll hear it if you are joining at the beginning of the stream or watching it later on. So there we go. This is interesting because I do want to almost put a little leaf here as well, and perhaps one that just goes around here in that space. That works. That's an interesting kind of thing. This is definitely very interesting here. Fill this up with little rounded rectangles. The line is just a guide for me, really. If I go outside of it and the line becomes a bit wobbly, I am not worried one little bit. I've got lots of wobbly lines or lines that are thicker and thinner in places. Varying thickness would be a better way of saying that, or weight if you prefer the term line weight. There we go. So that kind of lends something to that. And what I'm going to do as well is this side needs something to separate it from this. So I'm just going to add more rounded rectangles here, but wider, bigger. So it's darker, but not as dark as that dividing line. and it'll be fine. It will. It'll be perfectly fine here, because I know it will. There we go. And this one underneath definitely needs something in here, so I'm going to add very small little rounded rectangles in this area. And I'll try my hand out the way. This isn't how I usually hold my pen, and it doesn't feel natural to me. I'm sure I've said this before, but I hold my pen quite upright, because when it was my 13th birthday, a long time ago now, my older sister bought me a Rotring pen, an isograph. I think it was an isograph. And I absolutely loved it. But to use them, she said, you've got to hold them directly upright, otherwise you'll wear the nib down unevenly. And so I got so used to this. This pen went to school with me. I used it for writing notes in my books, for drawings, graphs, everything. I loved it. And it was a 0.35 one, and that had a yellow barrel on the bottom. Until it disappeared. Or did it disappear? Don't know. Anyway. So I'm so used to holding pens, fine liner pens, with the nib very vertically, that my hand does get in the way. I can write with fountain pens in a normal way like this, but when I draw, I still hold those quite upright. It's just the natural position for my arm. So those dark areas have really helped to separate that out, possibly. I say possibly because I'm not really sure at the moment. I've got another area like this, and I'm going to do the same kind of thing as I did over the other side, this kind of burlappy pattern where I just do dashed lines vertically, then horizontally. Breaking them wherever I want to, or as how often my pen will. Then I'll do them diagonally, leaving gaps where I want the highlight in this, just kind of around the middle at the bottom there. And then I'll go diagonally the other way again, leaving gaps in these lines so I can capture a highlight in comparison to the rest. So we've got that going on. Let me zoom out again. So you've got, oh, I'm upside down. So you've got an idea of what this is beginning to look like, and it is beginning to come to life. Now, if I was doing Zentangle, then all of this shadow and highlight would be done with a graphite pencil and a white charcoal or a white gel pen. But I much prefer to use pen and to create these textures and patterns, because it gives a different feeling to places. And it's by using, it's the density of line, the thickness of line, that you bring light and shadow, or you can manipulate how dark somewhere is or how light. Stippling is a good way of doing that, which is where you make dots, and the higher the density of the dots, the darker it looks. But I'm not so good at stippling. I find it quite hard or difficult and awkward to do. Now this area, I'll want this around here, down here and up here to be dark. And I want this area around and down and a little bit there to be darker. And again, I'm just going to use very finely separated little lines there just to add that shadow. Now, thinking about this, I didn't need to draw that line in ink. I could have used a pencil to draw it instead, which might have had a bit more sense to it. But I'm guessing there. There we go. So I've got this here, and I think I'm going to add shadows to the left and around a little bit. Not the left, it's the right, isn't it? The right and bottom. I'm only about halfway through the drawing, aren't I? Look at that, I'm not even halfway through. It's about halfway. So I've still got all this here to do and all of these. How am I going to do these here? I'll show you now. I'm going to do L shapes that go across, and then I'm going to put a couple more inside them. Sometimes it might only be 1 or 2 you can get in there, but that's fine. It's just these shapes, these lines, just give that feeling of that roundness of these. And I just think that's a nice way to do it with pens. Don't often do this, or I haven't done. I've been doing a lot more of adding pattern this way recently. I've even been playing with using colours to add it, and I don't find it as satisfying to me as using black pen. Surprisingly, perhaps. But there is just something about the contrast between the black and the colours, because the colours are there, but they're not overly dark, if that makes any kind of sense. I'm going to do the same with these as well, but with these I'm just going to get the one line in, I think, because they're so narrow, or short I should say, depends which way you look at it. I've got this here, and this I just want to give it a border like that. I don't want to do anything else with that. It looks like a jaw, and this looks like the nose. Okay, so let's go to these ones then, and it's the same kind of thing. Fitting in an L shape, even though it may not be entirely an L shape, and just adding, even if it's only one little bit extra in there, it just adds, it's that constancy. That's going to be a U shape. I think these are going to end up U shapes rather than L shapes, which is fine. Oh, there's my L shapes back, like so. So that's added something quite interesting there. And again, when I come back with white pen, perhaps I'll do some white pen for now, because time is marching on, and I know this is going to take me more than, you know, it's going to take me another hour or so to do the rest. What I've got here is I've got a Sakura souffle pen. I like the souffles because they dry very opaque. They will, if you move them back and forth, pick up any water-soluble ink underneath, so they can become tinted. But I actually have no intention of running them back and forth. Oh, look at that, I found a bit of paper there. They do need a bit of cleaning fairly often, because the ink inside them is, come on, you can do that. Yeah, I've got some coming out. Sometimes it needs that little bit of help from the back of my hand. But what I'm doing is, you may not see it until it dries fully, but it dries white opaque and a little bit raised even on paper. Yeah, it is flowing. But the ink will dry around the nib. It's sort of plasticky when it dries. So I need to clean that off every now and again. It comes off quite easily. But I can add little dots of white highlight on the other side, that top corner-ish, just to bring that out. Oops. And these do need, I'm sorry, to be held upright. So you might see, if I zoom in, nope, try the right button, Angela, there we go. You might be able to see there's some highlights showing where they're already drying. And I'm going to add some of these highlights as well down these black lines. Now with these pens, the lighter touch you have with them, the more ink that flows out. I'm just dotting them down quite hard and quickly so that as a tiny bit of ink comes out. So I've got these tiny little dots, which is all I need here. And again, as they dry, they become really quite bright white. And I do want to give these a highlight. This one needs its highlight. I'll pop one there, and I'll do this one as well. Just one down there. Oh, and that one, Mr. Grumpy there. So I've got that going on. For these, I'm going to add some little dots in these. Try and fit 3 in to each of those. These ones, it'll be a different amount, like so. So that really helps as well. Okie dokes. With these little balls that are here, I'm just going to add one dot towards the top of them. And that then just adds that whiteness. You can see how white they become, how opaque this dries. And I find I have a lot more success with these than I do jelly rolls, to be honest. Ordinary gel pens. My highlights are along these edges. So I'm just going to pop these highlights down inside. You might think, Angela, why so many dots? Why don't you draw lines? Because lines do not sit well with me. I just don't know why, but me and lines in white, it's just not how I like things. I prefer them to be dots. And I'm just dotting some white around in these areas where there's highlights, just to help to pick that highlight up and to enhance the idea that this is rising or domed upwards, and to give that impression of some volume again. Now, I prefer to do it with this. I have got white chalk pencils. In fact, I've got a lot of them because I bought a box of them. But it never looks right to me. And again, it's all to do with your own preference. Now with these, I'm going to take some of these and I'm just going to run white dots through some of them, just to help to bring up a bit of a highlight in these areas as well. And that works nicely. This one here, I've got all these little white dots that I actually created here with the marker, the alcohol blending pen, the colourless blender. But I'm just going to put some white dots in there because I think that'll be quite nice. And I'll do the same here. Perhaps bigger dots where the highlight is on this one, because I've got a distinct highlight there, and then perhaps smaller ones around it, like so, and even in between them. So that works nicely. Because I've decided I don't want to put any black ink there. Now, of all of these, is there anywhere else I'd like to put some? I will do. Right, I need to be careful because I got wet ink. So here, I'm going to use this to put some lines. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so I put some white lines that start wide and gradually get smaller until I've just got dots there. So I've got some highlights in there. Same there. Okay, so I've got that, all of that going on. Is there anywhere else I want to add any more white dots? No. But what I will do, I need to find my right set of paints, not those, but these. Oh, and I've got the scuzziest water in the world. It's fine, it'll work. These are Paul Rubens paints, and they are iridescent metallic. If I zoom out, you can see them. Absolutely lovely. All these colours, and of course you can mix them to a colour that you like. Now I need to find a very fine pen. This is a 0. I hope, take my glasses off, I may find one that's even finer. Oh yeah, I've got a finer one there. Oh, come on, out you come. Oh, it's not a very quality brush. Does it have the size on it? I don't think it does. Oh, it's a 00, so you can see the difference. I think I'll go with this one because it should be okay. Right, oops. Pop it back in there, Angela. Seeing the colour of this, it looks like pond water. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's fine. Now, what colour would I like? I do have purples here, and that's a possibility. And I do seem to have a nice pinky purple here, so let's go with that. Pond scum doesn't matter. It's not pond scum, honestly. I was using a dip pen with ink a few days ago. So I've got lovely waterproof inks I can draw with. Oh, excuse me. Pollen was forecasted to be high today, tree pollen, and it is. Obviously, it's got to me finally. So I wanted to pop some of this in places. And it is very delicate work. Now, I'm not worried if that spot of iridescent isn't up to the line here, because it's not important to go right up to the edges. I don't want it to go over the black ink because once it's there, and it'll show through even with ink on top. So I just want these little touches of that purple colour that I've got here. I had a watercolour book delivered not yesterday, the day before. And I think it's called Creative Abstract Watercolour. It was released on the 19th. And when I saw it, I had to pre-order it. I think it's by an artist I follow on Instagram, and I love the work she does, but she's not the only one. So it may not be her. I haven't had the concentration to actually read the book yet, but it's something I want to look into and something that will give me the confidence in using watercolour in the way I would like to. So I'm using some watercolour here. Instead of white dots, I'm using these purpley dots. And I'm not trying to make them perfectly dot-shaped either. These ones here, where I've got the black on the end, I'm going to put a dot of this in the middle. And it is the tiniest of dots you can imagine. Very gentle hand needed. I'm not sure I'm going to get any on all of them. I may have to add a bit more black ink around them afterwards. But if you can see, let's have a look. Yeah, you can see the sparkle or the shine on that. This area here, there. And I did pop some up here. So instead of using black ink in these sections, I'm using some of this iridescent purple. And I'll do some more here. Just make some of these dots a little bit bigger than the others, because I think that'll work nicer. There we go. All right, what I'm also going to do while I've got this here is I am going to put some dots of the iridescent purple in around the souffle on this one. So I've got different colours, and I'm going to do the same down here. Now, just to make it clear, I'm not paid, sponsored or anything else by any company. I'm not gifted products to use in my thing. Everything I use, I've bought myself. So there we have it. So we've got that. And I tell you what else I'd like. Oh, gosh. I've got terrible heartburn I think I had too much in the way of bread yesterday, which is never a good thing for me, or a particular kind of bread. And perhaps a couple too many black olives. A bit of a pig for black olives, especially the dry ones. Oh, yeah. So, all a bit of a mare. There we go. Somebody said hello to me in the chat. I don't know how long ago. Thank you very much. Hello. So just starting to add that. I'll pop my brush down somewhere. I'll pop it in there. And I'll carry on with pen now because, you know, times are marching on. Oh, gosh. Tell you what. Of course, naturally, I didn't bring a drink with me, did I? No, I'm not going to go and get one. Carry on. So that feels quite good here. I'm using the 03 for this section. Don't know why. It gives bolder lines, I think, and it just feels that this area might just need that bolder line here. Boulder. It sounds like rocks, like big rocks, boulders. As I've got rocks here. I mean, you know, what can I say? I can see that one there? That is going to have a good dose of the iridescent colour. And in fact, I'm going to see if I can just pick a bit more up because it's drying on my palette. Come on. Leaving a little edge around it, and that works quite nicely. Okie dokes. That's nice. And then I've got a grumpy face here. But I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that. I think I'll just edge around it a bit like so. And just leave it more or less as it is, I think. Perhaps a few white spots or some, I don't know. I think I know what I'll do, perhaps. And it's sort of like rounded shapes rather than squares, just squares or just rectangles. I'm using different shapes as they'll fit in nicely to the space, I think. Just like so. So that's quite nice, and I can do it with this pen. Watching where I put my fingers because I've got wet paint in some places. It dries quite quickly, but better be safe than sorry. I'm going to put little black blocks inside this. So I'm losing my face here, but I'm quite happy to lose the face. It was fun for a while. There we go. Looks more like an elephant thingy there now. No hope for me. Looking at it upside down. So that's nice. These areas here I'm going to do in the same kind of way as I've done to these, where I'm going to use the kind of L shapes just to add that shadow in. Like so. So that works nicely, and then we hope this will work. Back of the hand. These need to get working. Its skin is wonderful, especially if you've got very dry skin like I do. And yes, it comes off your skin. It washes off quite easily. I think I might actually put white in the middle of these rather than the iridescent purple. So that's quite fun. There we go. So this one here, I am going to just adjust the shape of this because it's got that uncomfortable corner. The corner there wasn't all that nice. But what I might do there is to get some more of that iridescent purple. bit more water required. And just add that in here. It looks a completely different colour on black, doesn't it? And it is, but it'll show up nicely. There we go. Right, so that's okay as it is now. Just do that. Then what am I going to do here? I think we're going to have kind of a leaf shape here. Again, I might use some white dots on this. That one needs another dot in it, doesn't it? There we go. Oh, it's an 03. Really want the 01. Oh gosh. This is always the nice thing about creating or working on things in stages, is there's always an opportunity to go back and adjust lines that are perhaps not quite to your liking. So I tend to do that quite a lot. With this one here, it's got that feeling of being almost like a seed pod. I'm going to take the thicker pen though, my 03, and draw some seeds in, simply because it feels that that's what it needs. Like so. And with the finer pen, I'm just going to put some little lines at the bottom just to bring out some shading, and then at the top I'm going to add little dots of white just to bring in the highlights that are there. This part here, I think I'm going to keep swapping, putting the pen lids on and off, so I'm going to apologise about that in advance. Try and remember to keep them off, but I can't guarantee I'm going to. So these lines, I don't know if you can see them. I'm just sort of like curving them over at the top and then having them going straight down, because that curving nature of the line, it almost comes out almost at a right angle to the line that drops down. Just gives it that feeling that this shape is curved outwards. It's not quite flat. And to help with that, I'm going to add some line weight at the top. So I'm essentially drawing like a semicircle or a part of a circle between these lines, where the top of it goes up a little bit and creates a little triangle at the top. And I'm going to do the same at the bottom, just to make the ends look more rounded. And for this, I'm just going to put highlight on here. The highlights are going to be close to where these bend. So I don't know if you're going to see that or see what I mean. Some of these areas are very small, so these little white dots may run over the black lines, and that's fine. It is what it is. Get to a point where I can't really put any more in. But as that dries, you'll see how that works out. It is what it is. And I'm going to do exactly the same kind of thing here. On this part, which I suppose is like the lower part of the seed pod. or, you know, a lower part. All these clicks must be driving you all nuts. They're driving me nuts anyway. Doesn't take much. But there we go. So I've got that. And then I do need to put the lid on top of the souffle pen. Where did I do those? Oh, there. There we are, that works. That's not a very good circle there, is it? Or that one. That'll be all right. It'll be a bit messy in that area, but it'll be fine. So we've got that all going. Okie dokes. This one, I'm going to do the same kind of thing I did here with this shape. So I'm going to start by having the line that goes all the way down and connects there. I'm going to have one that branches off and goes around the middle, and one that branches off like that. So they're all going to be kind of rounded leaf shapes. So I draw the line really as long as I want that leaf to be, and then I can adjust the shape as I add or make the shape fit the line, as it were. So that's quite nice. I like that. I do like that. It's a good plan. There we go. Just need to clean that off on some paper. It's got some gums around the edge. So that's really nice. Now if I look here, I can see what I've done with the other one for the patterns around it. So I'm definitely going to do this here. For this one, I'm not going to do the same as I've done there. I've got a highlight along there. So I'm going to want to put a line for shadow at the bottom. And I'm going to do that with all of these. I can see where the highlight is. Now I've got choices here. I could add some patterns here, which is always a possibility with black ink. But I think I'm going to make it simpler just with white. Where did I do the white? I did little white lines over there. So I think I'll do the same here, just to give those lovely highlights. I may alternate it, but let's have a look. It's not easy to see where you put these. You'll get a better idea if the light's glinting off them. But I don't want to go over these black lines. I just think that the white patterns of white are a nice contrast to all the black I've used as well. Little dots as I go all the way down that area. And I'm going to do the same here, and that gives me the opportunity to correct that little overspill of black there. And here. So it's a different way of getting black and white into the image. To bear in mind, I do want to get some more of that iridescent purple in places, but I'll work on that as we go along. So that's really quite nice. That'll be lovely. Oh, Yeah, I've got one more to do. I missed that one. So now I just have to remember that I mustn't put my hand anywhere near those until they're dry. They dry quite quickly. You can see they're beginning to dry already, but it's best to keep hands away. It really is. It's another one of these lovely shapes. So I'm just going to add this central line. It's going to be interesting as I squeeze it in there. And then I'm going to take it around there. That spot there, I'm going to fill with the iridescent purple. Just doing these here, those little 3 leaves within the leaf, as it were. So those are really good. I missed there a bit, that's okay. Right, and then I'll just pop on my little dots, like so, which is lovely. And then I've got these here, which I'm going to do a lot like these white lines there, because that will fit in then with everything else, but I also need to do these in the same way. And it's repeating those kinds of patterns. This shape was very similar down here, but I did that in a completely different way, so I'm quite happy with having this as it is, to be honest. Just these two that are very similar. It helps to pick them out, I suppose, in some way. There we go. And then this area here, which is where the shadows lie. I was thinking that's from a poem. But it's Lord of the Rings. It's where, in Mordor, where the shadows lie. Yeah, I think it's the rhyme about the rings that were made. The magic rings. Seems to ring true for me, that, as a statement. So, oh, come on, you can do it. Can't remember that, like that poem at all in its entirety anymore. But that, I was thinking, where have I heard that before? Where the shadows lie. Fortunately, there's no rings of anybody here. Certainly not of Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor, or the ring wraiths. The ones given to mortal men that were turned, which were under control of Sauron. There we go. So that should be okay. Oh, should get this done. Do you know what? Yes, it might be 2 hours long, but I'm going to do my best to get this long. Hello, Gail, if you're still here. Lovely to see you here. Yeah, I know. It was an impromptu thing where I decided just to come and finish this off and give everybody a couple of hours to keep them going while I'm away for a few days next week, or a couple of days. So, love to see you, and kisses from me as well. There you are. Okie dokes, which do I do next? That's wet. Let's move down here, out of the way is the answer. This here is where I'm going to use, in the centre there, I'm going to use white spots again, because I can, for no other reason. Right, so on this one, which would be lovely. And you know what? I'm going to put some in here as well. Sometimes you just have to. Yeah, I think that'll be nice. Oh, I didn't get any white in these ones, did I? Oh. So I need to do these as well, just to get those highlights in, just like their counterparts elsewhere, down there. There we are. Okay, and then let's go back to my lovely metallic purple. So I was going to pop that metallic purple in here, wasn't I? Yes, she says. Yes, I was. And I have. And I've got little metallic dots in there, so I'm just going to put the metallic dots around these. These colours look different on black than they do, you know, the metallic colours, than they do on white. So on white, you have white light shining up from the paper, reflecting from the paper up through the paint. Whereas on black, all the light is absorbed, so you don't get any reflected back. So those areas like here where I've got the metallic in, you can see it. In fact, I might just, well, I've got plenty more here. I'll put some more on the top. Perhaps a bit more there. And with the more paint I've got down, the more it should show through. But it just takes a little bit longer, perhaps, than with others. Right. Okay. So underneath here, I'm going to put a line around them. And with this one, we're going to have a line like that. I haven't done very well here, but I am going to put alternating rounded squares, I suppose, and narrower rectangles to give a pattern there. Again, this is ripe either for adding some metallic colour, which is possible actually. Quite like the idea of that. Oops. Be fine. Or the white, or just some fine lines. And in these bulbous parts underneath, I'm going to do some curved lines like so that they look like they are bulbous, bulging, bulbously bulging, bulging bulbs, I suppose. There we go. So that looks cool. These ones, oh, how am I going to approach those? This one is right slap bang in the middle, so I'm going to have a line on either side, a line here, a line here, and a line there. So that's bringing in some more detail. Do I want to add anything more than that? I don't think so, actually. I'm going to split this one just a bit. And then these, I've got the shadowed area at the top. Just add a fine line, a fine aura there, just to bring that out. This one I'm going to add a bit of a shadow there, and one underneath there. And then here I'm going to add lines on either side for now. I'm going to come back and add more detail. I'm just working my way through what I want to add and where, and sort of splitting spaces up as I'm going along. Notice this one hasn't, this one. I'm just going to add that. I'm going to do the same here. Just add that. And this one, just adding these oval shapes with a line to them. Normally put the line in first, but I feel like drawing them this way because I can then adjust the size of these ovals and make them, that oval is going to disappear under there. It's not going to fit in its entirety, which is fine. So that's actually quite fun. Now the question is, do I want to do white dots or the metallic? I think if I had just plain colour here, I'd have done metallic, but I think white will work out. These ones here, yeah, this one is definitely going to have these dark little boxes or circles filling it in. Got a bit of a gap there, so I'll just fill it in with black. And then I'll do the same here for the eye. So that's looking quite good. So, and I think with these bits underneath the eye, I think with all of them, I'm going to start adding white more than anything else. Come on, we've got some gunge stuck on there. So here I'm just going to so I've got those happening, those occurring. I'm going to put a line or a little oval inside these rather than a series of dots, just that, because I think that will work quite nicely. Okay, and then these ones, it's the same kind of idea where I'm just going to, got to move this so I can see where I'm putting this. It's a lot easier for me to see than you perhaps until it starts drying. But if I look from an angle, I can see where the light's catching these, and I can see if I'm making the lines long enough or short enough, whichever way you prefer to look at it. And then where the dots go. Of course, I'm reaching awkwardly over them, so I apologise if you can't see my nib, but I've got wet ink here, and the last thing I want to do is to put my hand in it and mess all of this up. And then here, and this will be the last one of these. I like the way that it's quite dark at the bottom. If I zoom out and turn this round the right way, I quite like how it's quite dark at the bottom where you've got, you know, it's almost like there's a, you've almost got things growing over the night sky, and then it's much lighter an area at the top, so it gives it that contrast as well. But I've still got, oops, Phew, that's dry. I've still got these to do, and I've still got some of the metallics because I want to put some metallics in those little spaces or iridescence, whatever. But at the top, up top here, I'm going to do these L shapes again. Like that one could do with being split like this. So I'm going to do these L shapes that nest just to give some shadow there. In fact, that one can have a bit of a different kind of shadow to it. That's an interesting one because it just goes there, but then we also need some shadow there. So we'll just change the shape of the line, like with this one. These are interesting because the other side of these is really hidden. That one feels like it's at the edge, but this one feels like it goes right the way underneath, as does this one, and that one, and that one. So we've got quite a bit there. So last bit of white, I think. Got a bit of black missing on this one. It's never a problem to go back and add it. Okay. Do this a bit more methodically so I don't miss things out, because that's always a possibility. And I'm trying to slow myself down because I know I'm getting to the end of this and the temptation is, oh, nearly done, nearly done, nearly done. Time for tea, time for tea. But I'm not doing that. Here, these ones can have some little white dots around them like that, as can this one. Just to put some highlights in. These can have some highlights as well. That would be nice. Anywhere else where we could do with some highlights? I don't think so. I think I'm done with that. The only thing I need to do now, it's the extra metallic-y bits, not Metallica bits, but metallic-y. I said Metallica, and what starts playing in my head is Enter Sandman. That beautiful bass riff or bass line, wonderful beat to it. Yeah, I know. Okie dokes, let's have a look. So if I start at the top here, I'm going to put some metallics in these areas. Oh, no, they've dried. Phew. Just in these areas, just a little bit. That one's gone over the black line, sadly. They end up going over the black line. I'm not going to get panicked and worried about it. I'll just say, well, that's how the ink, well, that's how the watercolor wanted to go. That's okay. Okay, this one here needs some metallic or the iridescent dots, just like the others. So you've got a variation there. Okay, where else did I want to put this? There was somewhere, oh, down here, wasn't it? It was this lot here. To add some. So that'll be nice. I'm even going to put some in this. Do I want to put it in there? It means I'd have to do it to all the others. So let me just look at as if there's anywhere else I'd like to add any more of this iridescence. No, I think I've actually got it. There's just one more area I just noticed where I need some white, which is along the top here. I need to get some white in just above these. It's going to be dicey, but we can do it. There might be lines here because it is so narrow. Is there anywhere else I would like white? There isn't. I'm done. I think I am done. What do you think? I'll try and take either a picture or scan it once it's dried and I've taken what pencil lines there are off. But there's one other thing I need to do, and that is I'm going to put my initials in, and it's March 2024. And there we are. I'll move it around so you can see where the iridescence is. Shiny bits that catch the light and scatter. There's plenty of them, but there's not an overwhelming amount, but it does catch the light and add something. What do I like about this? So move some things out of the way before I start rattling with things, and let's just tidy up a tad. All will be fine and well. What do I like about this? I like the fact I've just got pink and purple. I've got limited colours, limited colour palette. I like the textures in the distress ink. I like that flows outside of the picture as well, rather than having a white border. That's just me. I'm happy with, I mean, I love that faces appeared in this. They always make me smile. Part of me wishes I hadn't lost Mr. Grumpy in amongst everything else, but part of me goes, yeah, it's fine. It's worked out just fine. Excuse me. I like the whites. I like the contrast between having a lot more black ink towards the bottom and less towards the top. I like that this is lighter in area. It's not as light an area as I'd like there. It should be less colourful than it is. But hey ho, I could actually adjust that by creating some shadow underneath this line and that and this one, and it will push it back. And I may be able to do that with, let me have a look. I've got a graphite pencil here. So let me just look at using just perhaps a little hint of graphite. Perhaps a little bit under here. Down there. And perhaps a little bit up there. Let me see if I've got a tortie on anywhere. Huh, have I heck? Just thought I would have. Poof. Oh, hang on. Is that one? No, it's not. Well, well, well. Oh, got some here. There we go. Excuse the rattle. They're still in cellophane, which is fine. That one will do. It's got some pencil on the edge. But it may be that this might actually, for once, graphite might actually help. Or might be something I can appreciate here as it pushes that back and adds that shadow that's very much needed around the edge. It does actually. So it means that I'm going to have to do this in other places now as well, just to help to bring this kind of sense of dimension out, isn't it? That's okay, we can do that. Just be careful around that souffle because it will damage the souffle pens. Do some underneath here. So there's perhaps something I can add as well. Some here. Perhaps a little bit around here and here and here. Let's see how we do. Does that help? I think it does. I do think it does. Not too much, just a little. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So we'll do that. And these little leaves that I've got, they could do with a little bit around an edge as well, just to help them. This needs some down here, as does that. But just to help them have that shade and just to help with some dimension with them. That can have some shadow there. Got enough here just to bring it around. So that helps. This will help down here as well, the overlying. Says me who doesn't like graphite, but I'm beginning to see the uses for it, perhaps, in this instance. Because the worst that'll happen is that I need to get an eraser out and take some of it off. Because it should still erase off if I've put down too much on it, or if I'm not happy with it. So things like that. Yeah, that's working. It just helps to lift things up and out, I think. So I tell you where I could do with it is really underneath these. The problem is graphite is lighter than the black ink, but it should help with some shading here. Should have got my matte graphite out. Matte graphite pencils, but I've done this before I added the black ink. So that's always possible as well, but it'll be fine. So I could carry on doing this for quite a while. Did I add some there? No, I didn't, did I? Or did I? I think I might have done. No, I didn't. Yeah, let's have a look here. Definitely here. I really want to feel this as if these are curling upwards. Almost like eyelashes, I suppose. Weird eyelashes, but like eyelashes. There we go. My complaint about graphite is it does make things look mucky, in my opinion. But I guess I'm looking at it close up. Alternatively, I could have got some coloured pencils out and used slightly darker colours here, just to help to get things, you know, get that contrast in that I haven't managed with the markers. So I'm using graphite instead, because I can. And although I'm doing this quite quickly, because I'm conscious that, oh, I've just gone over 2 hours. Ooh, and it's at 6 o'clock here now. but I'm having a lot of fun with this, so all is fine and well. And I'm addressing that issue of not enough contrast in places, I suppose. Whereas I've added it, and I'm just helping to bring things out. Where else? A little bit of under here, I think. Perhaps a little bit at the base there. Top there, we need some, and some here as well. Just using what graphite there is on the tortillon there. Let's just have a look. But that's certainly has helped, I think. I hope you agree. And you know, there's a lot of contrast, a lot more contrast at the bottom. So, and that's kind of what I wanted. I can see that I've lost some of the colour and texture really here with the eye, and I've lost some of that brightness of the eye. So I'm using a kneaded eraser just to knock some bits back and try and rescue others, I suppose, from, see if I can get rid of some of the, I don't think I'm going to get it off my, the souffle pen, but I can certainly work on getting that back. I lost that brightness there and that texture there, but I don't know what you think. You'll have to let me know. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's gone on a bit. 2 hours. Hi Liz from Detroit. Thank you very much. And thank you for your comment as well, Gail. I think I can understand enough French to get that. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody who's joined and who watches this later on. I've enjoyed doing this. I'm very pleased. I was quite, I didn't go over the top with the iridescence. Yes, I've used a lot of white, but it needed it for that contrast to bring things out. And I'm quite happy with it. And the metallics still shine regardless. It's the graphite that bugs me because you get that shine off the graphite, but hey ho, it's fine. It'll be fine. So until I see you in the next time I do a video, I don't know when it's going to be. I said I've got a lot of energy today. Tomorrow I may not have. It's one of those things. And I certainly need to do something about this cough. It's asthma. So nothing nasty. It's just my asthma's kicking off because the pollen count today. So take care of yourselves. Find time to be creative. And I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Ta-ra. Hoyle.